Hello and welcome to the TGH College Hardwood Podcast. I am Joe. With me is Greg, as always, here to recap the last week of college basketball and preview this upcoming week of college basketball. Greg, it was a pretty good opening week of college basketball. We have a lot more good games to get to this week. How are you doing?
I would call last week our appetizer, our antipasti, if you're Italian. And we got those entrees coming up this week.
Yeah, it's just like just kind of looking ahead and making our picks that we do. I was looking at it and like this is like the maybe the real start of college basketball. It's hard to say that after we had some pretty good games, and even like Kansas, North Carolina, and a game of big brands that we're going to talk about too. But the schedule is pretty awesome this week. It's just going to lead up into, I assume, a good feast week at the end of the month. So it was also a week, Greg, of some frustrations from college basketball fans. YouTube TV, ESPN thing still lingers in the air. We have, on our parts, watched a lot of these games. We've gone back through full game highlights. We've gone back through full game replays, trying to get as much information as possible. So we'll do our best as we go through what is the worth of the situation here, which is just not having the ability to watch all these games unless we go to bars or pay for the Sling Day Pass, which I've done on several occasions.
Or if you go to sushi dinner on Friday night during the Kansas Carolina game, and it just happens to be the last place I would have thought it would be on, but it was on. So I
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
watch it.
I was at dinner on Friday night, and I went to the bar specifically to watch Kansas UNC. And I think for tomorrow for Kentucky Louisville, I am either going to buy the Sling Day Pass and watch with my family, or I'm going to go to the bar specifically just to watch that game,
uh,
just because it's getting to that point.
Shout out to my brother-in-law Cameron, who I just got off the phone with, who did listen to. He was commenting, texting with me about the podcast last week. But him and I were just discussing what our plan is. We would never share passwords or anything because we live in two different households. But we were just discussing together what our plan is going forward separately. But what we both think is the good, just in case the FBI is listening, we definitely don't share passwords. But
Hmm.
I have decided on, you know what? No free plugs. I'm not going to, if somebody wants to
Right.
come sponsor us. But I now have a somewhat short term free way to watch games for the next 5 days. So
Fair enough. Definitely everyone is going down this path to find a way to watch these games. And again, hopefully they get it figured out soon. It seems like they're still pretty far apart. There's still a lot of good basketball on Fox, on CBS, on Turner, who is now obviously CBS adjacent. Who's I'm glad they're starting to get in college sports a little bit more too, to give some more options as well. But Greg, we did have a good week of college basketball. Let's get started with our recap here. Um, the first thing we have to mention, I don't have too much on this game, Greg, but we did mention kind of Auburn struggling in the preseason. They went into overtime with Bethune Cookman and won 95-90. Um, it's going to be some growing pains for this Auburn team.
yeah, I mean, not the way you want, and I'm sure. Uh, I heard a story somewhere that Bruce Pearl thought the game was over, and I don't know if that just came true, but apparently adds.
Yeah.
Okay, well, apparently we have some plugs, so the Whopper plug is there. Um, but I guess he's doing TV now, and bro, specifically Bruce Pearl, because now we have to talk about Bruce and Steven. But I guess he was in the green room or whatever and put out a tweet, and then there was that late foul in the game in regulation that ended up sending. By the way, Joe, did you see who it was that was shooting those free throws?
I did not.
It was Arterio Morris.
Yeah, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So really everything in college basketball is connected. But
Uh-huh.
um, if I'm an Auburn fan, man, it's like that's not the way I want to start it off. And it was already a bit of an interesting move. As Joe uses different terminology for the handing of the guard from one pearl to another, but just something to keep an eye on. I think we both probably thought that team was going to take a step back, but going into overtime in their first game with Bethune Cookman was probably not on either of our bingo cards.
Yeah, and they did rebound pretty well. They beat Merrimack 95-57. What does that mean? I don't know. It's better than not beating Merrimack by that amount of points after going to overtime with Bethune Cookman. So we'll see what they do coming up here. game against Wofford, and then a game against Houston this week as well, which is really going to show us if Houston or if Auburn's going to take a step back here. All right, so that's something we had to note quickly. We're going to go to the bigger games on Monday to open the season. We have Arizona versus Florida. Greg, we both picked Florida in this game. I think trusting that front court that Florida had, and I do like the guards they have, but it was the Koa Peak game. It was the breakout party. He showed excellent footwork. They get the win 93-87. It is a game where, as Rondo is barking at his toys, it is a game where um, I think we got to see glimpses of this Arizona team and what they can be this year with some of the freshmen. Braden Burries did not have the best game. He did rebound to have a better game later on, but Krivas took a step forward. It looks like we have Koa Pete playing well. We have Jaden Bradley looking like he can just set up these young guys. Those were my initial thoughts. I have more to get to too after you say what you're going to say, but I'm going to go get Rondo to quiet down. But he's really enthusiastic about Koa Pete.
Don't get Rondo to quiet down. We are a pro dog podcast. Luna is literally sitting right here. If Rondo wants to give his input, he can give his input. Listen, people probably want to hear more of Rondo than us, but we'll keep talking anyway. Just to revisit something you already said, since you're gonna go grab Rondo real quick. I was happy with the presentation. Okay.
I just put the headset on Rondo
I
for a
know.
second.
I can see.
I'm explaining to our non-YouTube
Okay, yeah,
watchers.
that's right. I forgot. This is wonderful podcasting we're having right now. Yeah, watch the YouTube. Do actually every week you should be doing both. You should be doing the podcast and the YouTube.
Like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything.
Like and subscribe. All right, back to actual discussion. You already said it a few minutes ago, but I just want to reiterate the Turner presentation looked good, and there has been, with the NFL season starting this year, there has been discussions about how some horrible score bugs that have been out there. So, I like the way it looked. Obviously, they also got the benefit of 2 great games. This one, I don't have a ton to add. I just mentioned what I texted Joe, and it's that, there's this Koa Pete, and Krivas taking a step forward. The experience that Florida has in that front court was, what we thought would determine this game. Obviously, the guards are a little bit of a step back from what they were last year for Florida, but there's still talent there. We saw some good moments from Lee and whatnot. It's definitely not what they had last year, but Koa Pete doing what he did, it looks like it's not a speed play. It's more of a strength and finesse play. He's not like, rocketing by these dudes, but he's just got, he's a bigger, sturdier body, and he's got great body control. That's where he excels. And then Krivas kind of has that length. I don't know that a lot of other teams, this is what I said to Joe when we were texting. I don't know that, off the top of my head, there's a lot of other teams that, are going to be able to throw this kind of mix at that experienced and lengthy Florida front court. So might have just been a good recipe for Arizona. But they definitely look good. With Young Burries, obviously he fouls out early in this game. The only other thing to talk about is Chinyalu's jersey getting ripped off the front and nothing was called. It looked to me on the replay like it wasn't a grab. It might have been just somebody's finger got caught under a jersey, but it definitely wasn't like a grab to the point where he had to stop running. So that was just an interesting thing. Joe, you said you had some other thoughts? Anything on what I said, or anything? You just move on to your.
From what you just said, I feel like there's a couple teams who, and I think it's mostly the freshman class, who have guys like Koa Pete, whether it's like Cameron Boozer, or they play different styles, but Cameron Boozer, AJ DeBansta, who are bigger guys but have solid enough body control that they create those mismatches. So you're right, like Florida's front court is very good, but maybe not equipped to go up against those guys, and that's something to watch out if Arizona. Or excuse me, yeah, if Arizona does play those teams, like obviously they do play BYU, but if they play some of those teams later on, that might be the team who can give them issues. Other than what you said, I think something to note here too. Jaden Bradley had great finishing at the rim, good defense. going to be that table setter for them. I really think that's going to what's going to raise their level of play. Last year, I think they had to wait for him to kind of come on a little bit. Um, and they had the Caleb Love thing going on, which again, I don't think they had the best team around him last year, but now having more of like a solidified point guard defense, finishing at the rim guy, that can help. And then for Florida, the front court will be fine. I don't think they played their best game, but the guards do scare me. I think Boogie Fland and Xavier Lee are fine, but they don't have much depth there. Like Klavzar, he played well as like a rotational guard. CJ Ingram is a freshman who kind of plays more on the wing. That's just like I wonder if guard depth is going to be the thing that does them in. If like one of these guys, if it's Fland or Lee gets hurt, this team is kind of screwed in my opinion. If one of them gets into foul trouble in a specific game, that might get them in some trouble for that game too. So it's just not the this might be a weird thing to say, but like, yeah, when they're all healthy, they could be maybe one of the best teams in the country if they get things going the right way. But one of these teams where you're not like, if you're sitting here right now putting futures in to who might win the college football basketball championship, yeah, Florida's like one of those teams where it's just like very scary at this point.
Joe, I think maybe last year that kind of three big guys thing was a choice by Golden. I think just discussing that guard depth, that may be just a necessity this year because they don't,
Mhm.
you're right, they don't have the guard depth to really do it any other way. And it's not a bad thing, but this is one of those one injury away teams, just like you just said.
Yeah,
The only other thing we haven't talked about yet, I want to make sure we mention it. I didn't mean to cut you off.
no,
Um,
good.
Karchenkov looks like a case study for this. Let's see what these dudes coming over from Europe are going to look like. I mean, he had a decent game. So just just one of those that we talked about it in the preseason show. If you haven't listened to it yet, go take a look at it. Just a couple of things going on this year with the COVID year being gone for the guys that are still there. The freshman class looks great, but there's also some of these former pro guys coming over from playing in European leagues, and he's one of them. So, but I thought obviously this was Koa Pete's night, and you did mention Jaden Bradley too. There was a sequence where, gosh, I looking at the box score now, I kind of forgot that he scored 27, but I remember a specific sequence late in the second where it was two, maybe three finishes in a row on consecutive possessions that kind of helped Arizona push it out a little bit. But I mean, I walked away from this game liking both of these teams. Obviously, yes, depth is a concern for Florida, but I'm definitely a little bit higher on Arizona than I was walking into this game.
Yeah, definitely. So it's good for these teams to play early in the season to see what you got to, and both these coaches I think will help figure things out down the stretch. The other game on that night, my opening night Monday, was Villanova BYU. I thought we were going to get maybe a little bit less of a close game here. BYU wins 71-66. Greg, Debansa had 21 points. That's what everyone wanted to see. That's just kind of like the recap of it. I think Bryce Lindsey kept this game close for Villanova, 22 points. Um, the team we thought would win won. And I think that's good that they played a high major team to start because we really need to see what this BYU team is all about with some new faces and see how good they can be. But Villanova, I think just the story for me in this game, other than the Bansa, was just Villanova being more ahead of where I thought they'd be this early, especially for a team that started Devin Askew in the year 2025.
Yeah, doesn't record as far as I can see. Doesn't record anything other than minutes and a turnover. So that's a great for him. Maybe that starting lineup is gonna change for Willard here shortly. But yeah, no, I'm right there with you. We were talking about Big East depth coming into the preseason, and I definitely am not sitting here saying, oh, this team is going to compete for a Big East title, but like early indications is a team that I wasn't really on my radar for making the tournament could be like an 8, 9, 10 seed candidate, if they keep I mean they hung with BYU and I think BYU is going to be really good. I don't know if they're top 10 in the country good like they're ranked now, but they're going to be good. Um so yeah, I hate to say the same thing I just said, but I walked away from this game feeling good about both teams. I liked seeing BYU get pushed a little bit, and Devontae still helping them finish. We already said this again in the preseason. AJ Devontae might be a better player than some of these other guys, freshmen on other teams, but just with what he has around him with Saunders and Rob Wright, he like the statistical numbers may not be there like they are for some of the other, like Darren Peterson. We'll get to that. Is probably going to be everything Kansas has. Rob Wright was looked fantastic in this game. He's quick, he's skilled, I mean, this team is going to be dangerous. I still, I, you know, Cato looks great on inside on defense, but I don't know. I still am not super confident in front court scoring for this team. I guess that's getting real nitpicky, but we just got real nitpicky with the game we just talked about before this. So that would be my concern here.
That would be my concern as well. I'll talk about some of the things I was impressed with. BYU's defense, I think, was pretty good. Obviously, Bryce Lindsey goes off, but no other player in the Villanova's. I should say no starting player for Villanova went in double figures. BYU, I also was really impressed with their ball movement. They didn't have guys with like a lot of high assist numbers, but they had really good ball movement to move the defense. I thought that was pretty good too. And I think that's a good starting point for BYU. Now they're going to have a big game this week. We're going to talk about later. I think that could be more of a measuring stick, but I think it's a good starting point to beat that high major, you know, team on a neutral floor in Las Vegas. All right, so we'll move over to Tuesday, Greg. One game here we're going to talk about. We have the Texas and Duke game. One of these ones that was kind of close first half, then Duke pulled away in the second half. I think once Duke got familiar with a lot of their young freshmen, and really to me, just really showed how much of a gap there is between these two teams. Isaiah Evans, the guy that we talked about a lot last year, kind of proved he was a bucket this year, 23 points on 7 of 13 shooting. And then Cameron Boozer, rough first half, really rough first half. Second half, he's focused on getting to the basket. He didn't shoot those mid-range or deep jumpers, and that's what changed the tide. He was 15 points, 3 of 12 shooting. Very bad shooting night, but when he started getting to the basket and getting fouled, 9 of 12 from the free throw line, and that's what helped Duke get that lead. So what are your thoughts from that, Greg? I think there's maybe 15 teams in the country that are, I think, really talking about title contenders this year, and then there's just a group that isn't, and there's a very, I would say, more clear cutoff for me than most years. And Texas is one of the have-nots, and Duke is one of the haves.
Yeah, but Joe, leading you with the question here, what do you think the one thing we're going to talk about with Duke is? And it feels like deja vu, because didn't we have this conversation last year? Didn't we have it like what is it, Joe? Tell the people out there.
I don't know. I don't know I honestly I have a couple different questions for Duke, but go ahead. Go with yours.
The point guard play is
that's it.
Okay, so and again, it feels like deja vu, and you'd think a place like Duke, like they could bring in, an experienced point guard from somewhere, but it is what it is. Isaiah Evans continues to show that, as Joe pointed out last year, maybe Shire should have had him in the lineup a little earlier. Obviously, again, it's one game, so maybe that consistency won't be there. We'll see. Cam Boozer not scoring in the first half and then 15 in the second just tells you how dangerous he is. So we'll take that. What are your? I want to hear what your other questions are, because that's the glaring one for me. And again, it might be one of those years where their talent on the rest of the floor might just be able to overcome that. But what else are you seeing?
So yeah, let me start with the point guard play. I think they're going to end up going to a place where Cameron Boozer just is point forward most of the time. I do think that's the right move, but I don't like that from a roster construction point. You're right; they should have gone somewhere in the portal and gotten someone. I think that they can have a very good regular season, but when it comes to March, and maybe not even like for early round games, but Rick, what are they going to do when they play Houston like they did last year with that ball pressure, with that defense? What are they going to do with that? Like they don't have anyone who can create the offense. It's going to be giving it to Cam Boozer and saying, "Hey, go have 40 or else we lose." And I don't really like that. Some of my other questions with Duke is more rotation based, more guard depth based. I really do think Isaiah Evans and Caleb Foster, I do both off ball guys. Don't get me wrong, the point guard spots, whatever, they're fine. They're like guys who should be playing at Duke some good minutes. Do they have enough other guards outside of even the point guard spot conversation to get to where they want to be this year? I think they have good stuff on the front court, good stuff on the wings with Dame Sarr. Obviously, not having his best game in this one, but I think he had like more of an all around game. 8 points, 5 rebounds. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Is like the guard play of the point guard is like the biggest question. The highest number of assists one person had was two. There was several guys who had two assists, but just what's that depth going to be like? Cameron Boozer is great. Caden Boozer is not the same player. He's more of a guard. Is he the guy who's going to be the guard on this team that kind of steps up? He did have a better game against Western Carolina, but we need to see that in a bigger game. So I could see that like Isaiah Evans more of a shooter. Do they have a guard who can create something as well? Is kind of how I'm going to go. And yes, that kind of goes into the point guard spot, but it also goes into the other guard spots as well. And then just getting the rotation down. Like I do think they have some nice pieces, but like Malik Brown, I think played 13 minutes in this game. I think he's a very valuable guy who can maybe be a defensive impact, but he also five fouls. So that's how it goes. He's coming off the bench, and I'm really interested to see what they do. I do think they have talent. I do think they can maybe make it to the Final Four. But if you're talking about like again, very nitpicky for a team that won by 15 points against a very like, decent high major team at the very least. I don't know. I just think that's something to watch out for if you're like looking at picking national championships. But that's why we love the sport, Greg. I think in a month from now we'll have a different question for Duke, or John Shire will try something to get this team going. But it might be over before it starts, like you said, because they just didn't go in the portal and get that point guard. All right, so that is Texas and Duke. Greg, let's go to the Friday game. We will start it with the big game on campus. We had Kansas and UNC. Kansas led early in the game, led at halftime 37-29, and then UNC goes on a run in the second half, 58 second half points. Caleb Wilson was the star here, 24 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals. He was used at the top of the press. That caused some issues for Kansas. And Henry Visar, 20 points and 4 rebounds. He also had a pretty good game for UNC. Greg, thoughts on this one? Again, I want to applaud these teams for playing this game and playing it on campus, but it was a good game until it kind of wasn't.
Yeah, return to the home and home game. I think we mentioned that when we previewed last week, but just in case we didn't. So last year, this game was at Vaughn Allen, returns to Carolina this year. Yeah, Caleb Wilson, get with the program here. If you guys haven't been listening, looks like the freshmen are going to be pretty good. I was really, again, I don't have much to add, but like I was really impressed with Visar. One of our friends has already mentioned how good he thinks he is. Should we give him a shout out or?
If he listens to complaints about it, we'll give him a shout out.
Okay, all right.
No,
So that's a good
no,
test.
no free ads, no free shout outs.
Joe, there is one thing I want to bring up before we start talking about Kansas. I just saw it in passing today, and it was crazy day at work. Did Seth Trimble actually break his hand today? Okay,
broke a bone. I think it was a broke a bone in his arm, or was it his hand? I thought it was arm.
I thought it was maybe it was an arm. That's what I'm saying. Like I didn't have time to do it. That's just something that I saw a tweet about. So that's really going to make this team look different. I think he had, when we were talking about this team in the preseason, he was maybe more of a question mark. What can he be? And he had a really good game. So that is just kind of a bummer. The only thing you could say is maybe this turns out to be one of those scenarios where somebody else obviously it's a broken bone. So, barring something unforeseen, that's something you come back from this season. Maybe somebody else gets more run that otherwise wouldn't. And all of a sudden the team is more prepared for, or we've obviously seen the opposite. We've seen players get brought back in and it kind of throws off the mojo. So I don't know. That's a bit of a bummer, when Hubert is kind of in this, perpetual hot seat situation, even after being in the national title game and, up at halftime in 22. I just, I like the sport. This is the stuff that I hate to see, so, 4 of their 5 scorers or 4 of their 5 starters over 12, Stevenson offered 6 boards. I mean, look good as a team. That question mark for them is going to be, his health and who's going to step up in that meantime. Joe, you want me to give initial comments on Kansas or you want to start?
You can go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, I think we knew this was coming, but it's Trey White. Trey White. I'm looking at a box score, so I'm looking at the wrong. Yeah, it's Trey White's team at Kansas. If you haven't heard, no, that's no. Darren Peterson he's good. He's the truth. I expected more out of Flory Badunga in this game. You know, I don't know if maybe some of those lengthy bigs that Carolina has maybe just gave him some trouble. But it really is, I mean, going to be the same question we've been having. I still think Kansas is better than we're giving them credit for. I think that this team is was looked at maybe I remember Joe was texting me in the offseason like, do I put them in my top 25 or not? I think this is a top 25 team. So when I say they're better than we're giving them credit for, that's what I mean. I'm not saying, hey, I think this is a top 15 team and everybody's ignoring them. They're, I think, top 25-ish. And the question mark is where else is Darren Peterson getting help? Well, Marco Jackson continues to be a 5-star prospect that just is done nothing. I almost wonder if, I can't think of his name right now, the Dakota transfer that played last year for Kansas. Like, I wonder if like a guy like that would be a guy that would love to have this year with this team. Oh my!
Zeke Mayo.
Zeke Mayo.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just that extra dynamic guy. And maybe it'll be Council. I don't know, but it's what we've seen so far is not enough. And yeah, they beat Green Bay earlier in the week. That's all fun and good, but
yeah,
it's the same. It's I feel like 2 years ago when we started this podcast, Joe. So not last season, but the season going into the preseason of the season before, I remember having that conversation and we said, well, Bill Self said depth was an issue and he fixed it. And then we said the same thing last year and depth was an issue and he fixed it. And it's like now he's got Darren Peterson, and yes, Flory is a great. I think he's going to be great. Obviously he can develop a few more skills on offense, but it's just like you think it's Kansas, man. You think they could just have whoever they want.
Yeah. I'm still on board. I didn't have either of these teams in the top 25 preseason. I'm still on board if you don't want to have either. I mean, there's a good showing from North Carolina and Gwen, don't take anything away from them, but this was for Kansas. Darren Peterson's awesome. I thought he had a very good game, tough environment, going to be a very good player. You're right. My one of my first notes on this is where was Flory Badunga in this game? Like 36 minutes, 8 points, 7 rebounds. That's fine. But you let Visar get 20 on you. You let Visar and the rest of North Carolina rebound you by 12 as a team. That's kind of crazy to me. I think we thought the post defense issue was a Hunter Dickinson thing, but I think we're finding maybe it's just a Kansas thing too. Like, is it a help thing? I will have to watch them more closely, see if it's a help thing, if it's a what it is, because I didn't think he did a very good job in this game. I thought whoever they had in the game, like who had to switch down with him too, didn't do the best, or maybe even help defense didn't do the best, but definitely needs more of a larger watch before we can have a definitive thing. Um, you know, I'll say this. I mean, Darren Peterson's awesome, but all credit goes to North Carolina for the win. For Caleb Wilson, who Greg might be a psychopath in the best possible way. I don't know if you saw, he was pissed at the Field of 68 for not putting him in the top 5 ACC freshmen. Used that as advantage, used that as motivation. And then he mentioned, again, maybe I got by this, but I think he did say, I was trying to get back at Darren Peterson. I was on his team in the McDonald's All-American game, or one of the things, and he didn't pass me the ball. And he did. I think he did have like 4 shots, and he just played terribly. But he just decided to turn that into motivation, and took it personal. Was again, if they run that press all year, he's top of the press. That could be really successful and good mid-range game. That's what I was most impressed with. Now I don't know where they go without Seth Trimble. I think depth's going to be an issue. I think guard play is going to be an issue with that being the case. But happy to have this win under the belt going forward. These two teams, I'm interested to see where they go, but for 2 different reasons. For one, Darren Peterson being a guy who needs the help, and for North Carolina, can Caleb Wilson continue to do this without Seth Trimble? Because can Kai and Evans continue to play well or play a little better? Even that's what's going to have to be stepping up in the absence of Seth Trimble. So. Very interesting game, nonetheless. All right, Greg. The other thing you want to talk about is actually we're going to Saturday because he's typing on the outline right now.
I have another game in there. Georgetown beat Maryland, and I was looking at it. great for Cooley, but like I have no idea why I put that in the outline. Not a clue.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to Saturday then, Greg. We had a big game between Alabama and St. John's. Um, Alabama wins 103 to 96. I'll give them credit real quick before I go into a little spiel that's going to last 2 seconds. But they had to replace a lot from last year with Mark Sears, Grant Nelson, everything leaving. They had a lot of guys who had to fit into a new system. And LeBaron Filan had 25 points. Aiden Holloway had 21 points. It wasn't the most efficient night from three for Holloway. They went 103 to 96. This might have been possibly one of the worst played basketball games I think I've ever seen defensively. It was. I don't have much on this game. It's really cool that Jimmy Ejiofor had 27 points, 10 rebounds. The guys on Alabama played well. Bryce Hopkins played well. This was awful. Like I'm glad. I think people might like it if you're like an NBA guy who just likes to see points, and that's fine. But I don't know what to make of these two teams because the defense was so bad.
And hearing so if you did like like the cover your eye test and I'm looking on the left and I see Alabama, I see 103. All right, that makes sense. And we cover my other eye and I see St. John's on the other side. I'd be like, wait a minute, what? Like this is a Rick Pitino coach team, right? Like yes, we know Alabama plays fast. I swear I saw somewhere that this is the most points given up in regulation by a Rick Pitino coach team. I swear I saw that somewhere. If I'm wrong, then sue me, I guess. But I am,
no, do not sue us. Don't sue us. Don't say that.
Yeah. I am almost certain I saw that several places on Twitter. Again, there was a lot going on Saturday, relatively for an opening weekend of college basketball. Also, there was college football going on and stuff. But yeah, not what we're used to with a Rick Pitino coach team. Welcome back, Bryce Hopkins. A decent game. So that was one of the things that when we were talking about this team in the preseason, what are they going to be? Him being good helps with that. Ian Jackson coming off the bench, their starting point guard all offseason until like right before the season started. I don't know, man. Like we can play an excuse card for a little bit and just be like, hey, maybe the inner workings of this team changed last minute and whatever. There's definitely talent on this team. I wouldn't get that worried, but yeah, I mean, you're right. Like this might be one to kind of just like throw out in the wash and just, okay, it goes on your resume, but that's about it.
Yeah, I think largely Rick Pitino will get his team in order. I hope they should have enough defense to get it done. For Alabama, good win for them. This is the style they want to play, so I guess they did dictate that. I do wonder about the 3-point shooting, Greg. Just they lost a lot of it this past offseason. They have Latrell Wrightsell coming off the bench. He did finish with 17 points, but he was their best 3-point shooter at 50%, and they shot 11 of 35. So just take him out of the equation. They were just awful. This is a team that wants to shoot so many threes, so that's just something to watch out for the future. Again, one of these games where I think a lot of time we watch these games, now like you might actually get some good bits of information about these teams. And like because it was so bad defensively, I think I need to watch a couple more games so I really know exactly what these teams are, to be honest. So credit to Alabama for the win. For St. John's, you have a lot of work to do. Okay, Greg, let's go to the next game. We have Arkansas and Michigan State. This one was on campus at Michigan State, a fun one. I know John Calipari didn't necessarily like this, but I guess they scheduled it anyway for friends between him and Tom Izzo. I talked about before the game, Greg. I kind of like Michigan State because of their returning experience, but the stars of this game for both teams were guys that really weren't on the team last year. They're freshmen, so for
Wait,
Arkansas,
whoa. You're saying guys this year that are good are freshmen?
oh yeah,
This is news to me.
yeah. I mean, we talked about how many different teams here, and they do have like Caleb Wilson and all these guys we talked about with the freshmen. Let's get into it. We usually start with the winners, but just for they have two guys who played well. Darius Acuff, 16 points, 6 assists, pretty good. I mean, he didn't have the most efficient shooting night, but rough environment. Michigan playing Michigan State for a point guard, that is awesome. Even though DJ Wagner did get some run at point as well. And Malik Thomas, 16 points, 6 rebounds. Then you go to Michigan State, and the star of the game is Cam Ward. No, not the Tennessee Titans quarterback, but Michigan State freshman. 18 points and 10 rebounds in his first big game of his college career. So, Greg, I have some more insight after this, but just that's the stage. Is like, hey, these freshmen, we were expecting the returnees for both teams to step up, but it was the freshmen who really led the way for both of them.
Yeah, you know, this class in general looks like it is going to be star-studded. That compounded with we already kind of said it, but the COVID year isn't anymore, so there's not as many older players. We're still getting the pros from Euro, but all of those variables lead to it looks like this year's freshman class is going to play a bit like it feels like we're in 2012 again, and all that matters is what freshmen are on the floor, and this just might be John Calipari's kind of season, because he's got two of them. I feel like really leading up the last 2-3 weeks of the season, I heard a lot about ACuff, and that was all well and good. I just felt like I started seeing all over Twitter and stuff like Malik Thomas, Malik Thomas, Malik Thomas. Like not anything, specific, the general, he's great, he's good. I mean he looks like he's got a great basketball body. He shows up in this game, and if, they lose a game on campus no the first week of November. I mean, it is what it is, but this Arkansas team might be something, I mean, I don't think they're going to get 3 points from Trevon Brazil every game. So, all of a sudden you start thinking about that and the offensive output that this team can, might have. They might be really good. Part of, hey, okay, they held Michigan State to 69 points. All right, well, Michigan State just has always played a little slower. So, I mean, I'll take that for what it is. But if they can be good defensively too, and I think they have the athletes to do it, it's always going to be a question of, do they have the willpower? Do they have the techniques and stuff? But like, this team could be good, man. They could be really good. This was a ranked on ranked matchup for a reason. And, again, I feel like, sitting on both sides of the fence with a lot of these games that we've kind of watched, but feel a little better about both teams walking out.
Yeah, Arkansas has a lot of potential, definitely a lot of things to fix, specifically post defense. Um, Michigan State dominated the glass. They dominated scoring in the paint, and it is kind of the way their team is constructed this year. Don't get me wrong, but you brought in Nick Pringle, who's supposed to be helping you on the interior. Brazil as well. Pringle's played for almost every SEC team at this rate, so he should be experienced enough to play well in these big games. And
All right,
uh,
let's do it for the people right now. South Carolina,
hmm
Bama,
hmm
Arkansas. Is there one more?
I don't. I think that's it. But
Okay.
but still, the fact that he's gone to three different SEC schools is
Yeah.
kind of crazy. Um,
In
so
the
they need
old
to.
days, that would be he would have had to sit out 3 years, so he'd be in his like seventh year of college.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So Michigan State dominates the glass despite that, and I think this is like I don't know if this is hyperbole. It probably is. I've seen good big men as passers. Michigan State's interior passing from big to big, or even cutters from the guards, was amazing. It was Carson Cooper, it was Cohen Carr, it was Jackson Kohler, it was Cam Ward. Maybe wasn't there yet with the passing, but he was on the receiving end of those passes, and that can be really dynamic. So that was the thing I was most impressed with was just the ball would go into the post, and there'd be a guy cutting, and they would find him, and that's something to be said for these early season games with that experience. But just something to watch for in the later on part of the season. Obviously, Jeremy Fears played well with his 9 assists, but the bigs were what I was impressed with their passing.
Well, that's probably what you got to do if you shoot 1 of 14 from the 3 point line to win a game.
Yeah, so same issue for Michigan State as last year too. Who's gonna score on the perimeter? Who's gonna shoot threes? But
Hey, but Joe, I'll tell you what. Here's what I do like. We didn't mention it when we talked about Florida, Arizona. Arizona only took 5 threes, won that game. I like a little bit of the counter culture type stuff where some of these teams, again, this is why we like college ball, because it's not groupthink. It's not everybody doing the same thing. Obviously, I'm going to think Izzo does not want to shoot 1 of 14 from 3 every game, but it's nice to know that may not be their forte. And you start thinking, well, what if they're 7 of 15? What if they're 8 for 20? I mean, like then it starts looking way different.
yeah, definitely. But definitely, like you said before, Greg, impressed with both teams and excited to see where this might go after that on campus game. We're going to go to another game now that was not on campus, but was in the same city as the team hosting, which we'll talk about another one here. Or no, that game's actually on campus this year. But this was kind of one of those ones we don't necessarily like these neutral site games that are in the same city. Um, but we have Gonzaga winning 83-68 over Oklahoma. Graham Ike had 19 points and 11 rebounds. Oklahoma had their good guard play step up with 21 points from Xavier Brown and 18 points from Nigel Pack, but kind of just gave up a ton of points on the inside to Gonzaga, with Ike having his 19 and Braden Huff having 13 points as well. So that was kind of the difference in the game. Greg, thoughts on this one?
I stink at picking games.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
basically every game we picked last week on this show, I got wrong. I picked Florida, I picked Kansas, I picked St. John's, I picked Arkansas, I picked Oklahoma. I got BYU right for games that we picked. Yeah, other than that, was not was not my best week for
Yeah.
picks.
You'll bounce back.
So I hopefully, yeah. Usually, you think you're going to see a bunch of green on the spreadsheet. Joe and I do on it during the buy game, weeks. But pretty much every game that mattered, I got wrong. But
Yeah.
hey, just like some of these teams that we're watching, I can just chalk it up to it's just early November. I haven't seen enough yet. You're right. I'll bounce back. I don't, Joe. I would really like to see another Gonzaga run before they're in a quote unquote power conference when they move into the Pac-12. Whether or not that's going to be a power conference, obviously, is a big conversation to have. It probably won't be, at least to start. But do you think? What do you think this team's ceiling is?
Hard to say with the point guard talk. Because the thing I was going to bring up is Braden Smith, the guy we talked about, not the Purdue guy, different Braden Smith, different spelling. They kind of saved him for a year. They started him in this game. He redshirted last year. They only played him 13 minutes. And then Mario St. Cypri, I believe is how you pronounce it, he had 26 minutes, 8 points, and 6 assists. So one of those guys coming over from, I believe it was Spain. Yeah, from Spain. I don't know. Like, is he going to be the guy? Is Braden Smith going to be the guy? I like the interior guys. I like some of the wings they have. Tyon Grant Foster had 14 points after that long battle with the NCAA about eligibility. Adam Miller played for everyone as well, like we talked about with
Can
Nick
you
Pringle.
can you name off the top of your head the three others the three other schools he's played for?
Illinois, Arizona State, and who am I missing?
An SEC team.
Oh yeah, was it LSU? Yeah, it was LSU.
It was LSU.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot more of this in the years to come.
Yeah, yeah, but that's the thing is like I think this team, the post play can get them to a Sweet 16. But if the guard play isn't good, I could see this team being bounced first round. So that's where I'm at with it. I don't know how you feel either.
I'm just glad Still Ventures is finally getting to play basketball.
He is 13 minutes. Hopefully that keeps on increasing
Listen,
after
man,
how much he's had.
I am just all for dudes that I want them to have their experience playing college basketball.
Yeah,
Glad he's finally healthy and he's finally playing. Maybe not to the capacity or the impact that he wants, but he's playing ball.
yeah, and maybe he'll get better as the season goes on. And for Oklahoma too, the guard's great. Tay Davis, I liked as a transfer from Notre Dame. They'll have to figure out how to get more out of their front court, but it's also, hey, go get thrown into the fire and go against Braden Huff and Graham Ike. That's not the easiest thing either. All right, so the last game we will recap this week, Greg, is the Indiana Marquette game on Sunday. This was a game that first half close, end of the first half, Indiana started pulling away a little bit, and they ended up basically killing Marquette. And it was in Chicago, 177. Lamar Wilkerson had 23 on 6 threes. Tucker DeVries had 6 threes as well. That type of offense is going to get you some wins, and it felt like Marquette just didn't have enough firepower to keep up.
Yeah, I think we said this in the preseason when we were talking about. I say that like it was forever ago. I mean, it was literally like 8 days ago we recorded. So we just weren't sure what there was going to be for Marquette. We knew it was going to be a step back. I still feel like gut feeling is that this result still surprises me. Not that they won, not that Indiana won, but just the manner in which they won and they really took off. And yeah, I know they have Tucker DeVries, and he's playing with the big boys now and whatnot after spending a year at West Virginia. But I still gut feeling felt like Shaka Smart coach teams, they usually just have this tendency to just hang in games. Like I don't I would want to like look at the last time they got boat raced like this in a half, because it feels like it's been some time since that.
I can't quite remember. Maybe I don't know. Maybe one of these UConn games were last couple of years, but yeah, it felt like Chase Ross was doing his darndest to keep him in the game. 4 of 13 shooting, but still he's trying to do his best. 10 of 12 free throws, 19 points. There was a couple guys who scored double figures, but you kind of have to when you're trying to play catch up with a team that scored 100. And they don't have the guys. And it is all good and well to be the guy and the coach who's like, hey, I want to recruit guys, I want to keep them, I want to honor the guys we have. But today's day in college sports, Greg, I don't know if you can do this white knighting and kind of say like I'm going to do things the honorable way. I think every year it's your job to put a winning basketball team on there, and it's your job to be honest with the people on your team if you don't think they're going to have big roles, and say, hey, it's going to be 3 years before you really play, or 2 years before you really play. If you want to go somewhere else, I understand. We're seeing it in other sports too. Dabo Sweeney doesn't bring in transfers as much. He brought in a couple transfers this year, and it's he's faltering. So it's all good and well that Shaka Smart wants to do this. He doesn't recruit at the level I think you can do this sustainably, and I just don't think it's going to be something that's sustainable long term. Even talking about Tyler Kolek, who a couple of years ago played at George Mason before transferring in. Now all of a sudden they want to decide to not do transfers. That's where I'm really struggling with this team and the future of this program. Is maybe they can prove me wrong, but I don't know if you can do the white knighting thing.
2 years ago, 81-53 to UConn uh, during February. Other than that, there's like 3 games they've lost by double digits in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I like 3 games they've lost by more. I think it's again. I'm just looking quick, but it's like 3 or 4 in the past 2 seasons that they've lost by double digits. So, I mean, like this marks a bit of a change from what we're used to with Marquette, but again, a change we thought was coming. Maybe not
Yeah.
to this extent, though.
And I don't like I said I think I don't know how it's going to go for them this year. I think this is like a really tough thing. Like, their schedule's off very very tough. They don't get any reinforcements. It's just like a tough way to do things in this day in college basketball. Upcoming schedule, not exactly order, but before they go into conference play, they have Maryland, they have Dayton, they have Oklahoma, they have Wisconsin, and they have Purdue.
Yeah, and you mentioned that Maryland game is Buzz coming back to the building, man. Since he's at Maryland now. I mean, that's a weird, and it's not like Buzz has been that much more successful than Shaka, between A&M and whatnot, but it's still going to be a way, like losing that game. I think might have a pretty big impact on the chat rooms for the fans and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, it sucks that you can't do things the old way and just have the players stay and get better and everything, and maybe that's
You
something that he can
can,
figure out.
you can if you're Purdue, but even they dip in a little bit.
Yeah, they dip it a little bit, and they recruit at a little bit better level than Marquette has been recruiting too. So it's definitely a strategy. I think that again they got Tyler Kolek, and then after that they're like, no, we're just gonna keep our guys, and I don't know, bold strategy, Cotton. But Greg, that is our recap for the week. We are going to go into our picks for the games this week. We're going to start it off with the game. Are you going to this game, Greg?
No, it's on a
Yeah.
Tuesday night in Cincinnati. No,
All right. Well, it is Dayton at Cincinnati. This one's on campus. They've played a couple off campus, which good for both schools. I think to be able to go to this game. Playing it off campus, even though we don't like that. But this one's on campus. What are your thoughts, Greg? You've gone to some Dayton games.
I
What are
am.
you thinking?
I am once again here to say I don't understand why Xavier and Dayton don't play every year or every other year or whatever, but that's not a conversation Joe likes having, so I'll leave it at that. Yeah, I mean, there's question marks with Dayton. Um, the first thing that I said going into the first exhibition game that we went to, they're playing Penn State, and they trot out the starting lineups, and there's Jacob Connor at the 4, and I'm like, if that is your starting 4, like he's not a bad rotational piece. Him being the starting 4 gives me concerns. He's been kind of putrid as the supposed to be the stretch 4. 3-point shooting's not been there. Keontae Joe's been great, so that's one thing. Uh, to watch out for this when this team goes up against UC on Tuesday night at Fifth Third Arena. Shauna Bev has been looking good for UC so far. Don't tell my wife I'm picking UC.
I will not tell your wife. Yeah, I mentioned it in the A10 show. Dayton could get to a point where I start, thinking they can win the A10, but I'm not really there with them. I think this is a step back year. And I think Cincinnati, I think they have a little bit more juice than any time than under Wes Miller. I think Sean Abayev has been very good. Baba Miller has been amazing for them, the former very highly rated recruit. And I think that at home, they're favored by 7.5 points, Greg. I'll take them to win and probably cover that as well.
And that is all while missing their returning scorer from last year, who was dismissed from the team in Jizzle Jane.
Hmm.
I mean, that's one thing. I feel like it is if he is on this team, it is a completely different conversation. I think UC is probably preseason top 25 and in a conversation for what are they going to be in the Big 12, probably top 3-4 teams in the Big 12. Without him, I mean, they could still get there if Abayev gets, obviously it just means more run for him, more scoring for him. So who knows? But it is a little bit though. I feel like I do this every year where I start talking about the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and whatever happened. Wes won't talk about it, but it must have been something very serious because he just went straight to player dismissal. Um, but as far as the team is now, I think they beat Dayton. I just Dayton's missing a player too because of some gambling stuff. Don't know if he's going to be back or not. Um, the team usually Anthony Grant teams are very good defensively, and we went to the game this weekend. They played UMBC, and I think part of having a very underweight. He's long and long and lanky. Emil Tong he's got size, but not he's not strong. So they don't have that, they have that interior finesse presence, but not an interior power presence. Maybe it's going to be Malcolm Thomas. I don't know. It's not a solid defensive team. It seems like they might have some scorers, they might have a few shooters, but it's just not a vintage Dayton defensive team. And then you start looking at, okay, well, how good is the offense? Well, it's definitely worse than it was last year. They could get there, but I'm going to need to see one or two more guys step up. So there's nothing really that I look at to make me want to pick them going on the road to UC.
Yeah, it's that's how it is. Hope maybe they can develop, but it might also be the last time we mention Dayton on that show the whole year too. It's just that's how it
Could
goes for
be.
the mid majors. So, um, Greg, let's go to the next game on Tuesday. Kentucky at Louisville. Playing this one earlier in the year. I'm not sure if I like that, but
That, that was the first thing I thought when I saw this pop up. I was like, I kind of hate that.
the
I
only
it gives me the ick.
the only thing I'll say is I like that it's not up against different bowl games or different college football playoffs or on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. That's nice. But it is earlier. It's at Louisville. Louisville served by 3.5 points. We have, you know, a rivalry game. We have Mark Pope and Pat Kelsey purportedly getting into a little bit of a verbal scuffle this offseason over recruiting. Don't know if that's 100% verified yet, but they're both nice guys who actually do enjoy each other, which is, it's not something you always want to see with the rivalry, but should be a very good game that gives us a lot of indication about these teams.
Yes.
Okay.
I am contemplating who I want to pick. I do this. It's just the thing. This game is the one I think I'm most looking for. Like, forget the fact that it's UK Louisville if you even can. I just feel like this game is going to be fun. if it didn't have, even if it didn't have the added, like, just take the names off the front of the jerseys, I feel like this is going to be a fun game to watch. Oh, also it's UK Louisville, so there's going to be a little bit, more oomph to it. I'll just take, picking away teams didn't do so good for me last week, so I'll take Louisville.
I'm taking Kentucky. It's because of the defense of Louisville. They are 35th in KenPom. Kentucky's number one in KenPom overall, 11th in offense, fourth in defense. I think the post presence is something I'm kind of really waiting to see with this Louisville team, specifically on the defensive end, see if they can stop some other teams who have good scores. Now, Kentucky will not be at full strength for this game. They're not going to have Jaden Quaintance. Trent Noah may not play in this game, too. We'll see what his status is. But they've gotten some early returns from Malachi Moreno, the freshman, who had a very good game against Valparaiso. I'm really big on Owe getting to the basket, and that's just going to put a lot of pressure on that defense. So I'll take Kentucky. I think it could go either way. Obviously, Louisville's favored. The game will be pretty rocking. I'm sure it'll be split crowd, even though it's at Louisville. And I do think there is some worry about Kentucky and just getting their rotation right because they played Colin Chandler at the point guard earlier. They didn't. That's not really the move. I don't think. Maybe like you can do it in desperation, and maybe they were because they didn't have Jalen Lowe, who was expected to play in this one. But yeah, I'll go Kentucky. I think that they'll slowly figure out the rotation as the year goes on, and it's going to be even harder once Jaden Quaintance comes back. But that's a good problem to have, I guess.
Joe, just for the people, since you are obviously a Kentucky fan and may know more than the average person, what are we looking at for a timetable for Quaintance right now for him coming back?
Most people said, and this is with a conservative type of look, that it's January ish. So like SEC play, there's a chance he comes back in December, but a lot of people are wanting to make sure he's 100% healthy and bring him back in January for SEC play. All right, so another big game that night, Greg. It's going to be a very fun night of college basketball. Texas Tech at Illinois. This one's on campus. Illinois is favored by 3.5. Greg, this is like one of those future Sweet 16, Elite Eight matchups. So it kind of looks like.
Yeah, I'll take Christian Anderson. We did not mention, but he had a great start to his season. Um, and obviously we know JT Toppin, going to be a front runner for National Player of the Year. I'm gonna, even though it's at Illinois, I'm gonna take Texas Tech to win this game.
I'm taking Texas Tech too. I think the 1-2 punch of Anderson and JT Toppin is great. And I think we're still like Illinois has some returning players. Tommy Slavovicic, who missed one game, played the other. Kylan Boswell. They do have a lot of other guys they're trying to work in here. Some other guys they've gotten from overseas. Um, that's going to be something to watch out for in the
Somebody
next.
somebody is already, I thought, reported as out for them too for tomorrow's game. I thought it was maybe one of the Avicic brothers. I
It probably is Thomas Slav. He's only played one game, so
I remembered seeing something, uh, again, crazy day at work, but I remembered seeing that somebody was listed as already listed in the injury report as out for tomorrow. So
yeah. All right, so both Texas Tech on that one, Greg, at 10 p.m. on Tuesday night. Creighton and Gonzaga. Gonzaga favored by 10.5.
I'm gonna take Gonzaga. I like want to just take Creighton, but I because of, again, I feel like I'm a little bit higher coming in off the into the preseason on, definitely higher than you on them, but you know, I felt like Gonzaga looked pretty good this weekend, so I'll stick with them for now.
I'm going Gonzaga too. The point guard play does make me wonder how things are going to go. But Creighton's another team that like Gonzaga at least has the front court figured out. Creighton has like a lot of parts they're putting together too, and this one is in Spokane, so actually on campus for Gonzaga. So I'll take Gonzaga to win this one. On Thursday, we have Purdue and Alabama. We saw these teams play last year. This time it is in Tuscaloosa, Greg.
Oh man, I'm going to take Purdue. I'm going to probably ride Purdue in almost any game they play, really until they lose a game. I feel like maybe if they're going up against Houston at some point, which I think is on their schedule, but maybe if they're going up against a team like that, I might pick them. But there's not a lot of teams that I would pick against Purdue. I would consider Bama just with the stylistic difference, but I'll take Purdue to win this one, even though it's in Tuscaloosa. So I said I'm not going to pick away teams, and here I am picking another away team. Here we go.
It
Can't
sometimes
wait to see
works.
what.
It sometimes works. I'm going with Alabama at home here. Did like the offensive output despite how bad the defense was for St. John's. Um, they do have experienced guards now. I think that will be key. It's gonna be a raucous environment at home, and I'm not too impressed with Purdue and how they played this year yet. We talked the Kentucky preseason game. Even Matt Painter said Kentucky could have won by more if they played their starters more. Like it was bad. And then you know, there was some peacocking a little bit. Fletcher Loyer, everyone says he's bad, shouldn't start, and like, oh, look at him, he had such a good game, and that he hit 7 threes last week in one of the games. I don't know, man. This team is still not playing well. They beat who they beat? They beat Oakland by 10 points at home. Like I'm not saying that Oakland's bad and shouldn't be able to keep up with these teams, but this is like the number one team that people are talking about coming into the year. I'm still a little bit I don't know about them. I mean, I think they'll get there. I think trust Matt Painter to get there, but I think a tough environment on the road, middle of the week game on Thursday. I'll pick Alabama in this one. Moving on to Friday, Greg, we have a former Pac-12 game. This one's on Friday night. Bill Walton would be proud. 10 p.m. on Peacock, Arizona and UCLA. Big rivalry game here.
Yeah, I don't know about you. Maybe you'll feel different. UCLA has not looked super awesome to start the season. I wasn't really expecting that. I feel like at first when I looked at teams, I was like, well, why is UCLA looking so high? And then I took another look at the roster. Okay, I kind of get it, but they have had a really slow start. I'm sure Mick Cronin is giving them hell in those locker rooms. I'm going to take Arizona to win this game, which is another away team. So go figure.
I'm taking Arizona too, though, Greg. That Koa Pete thing is going to be very tough to match up with all year long. And you're right, UCLA hasn't looked good. We already have Mick Cronin just having those great press conferences where he just melts down and talks about how awful the players are, and that's not a good sign. Like I like Donovan Dent. I think they're gonna make the tournament. I just don't know if they're ready to beat a top 5 team in the country yet. That's kind of a big thing here. So Arizona can win this one on the road, in my opinion. Let's go to Saturday, Greg. I think one that's like really going to be interesting because obviously last year didn't go that well for UConn. BYU were trying to figure out who they are. This is the Hall of Fame series. It's in Boston. 2 top 7 teams going at it.
Yeah, I'm gonna take UConn. Um, I think there's a lot going against BYU in this one. I that's a long way to travel. I know we've at times touched on that kind of stuff, and I know some of these guys that have played ball for so long are used to that. But even we see it with professional athletes. I'm gonna take UConn.
I'll take BYU. I do think this is more of it could go either way. Now that doesn't mean that like UConn won't win by 20 if Dan Hurley throws a fit on the sidelines and gets everyone going. But it is close to UConn. BYU, I do like the matchup problem AJ Devansa does pose to this team. Who's UConn going to put on them? I don't know. But that's going to make things interesting. And then off of that, if you can have people playing out of position to make sure he is guarded, Richie Saunders just being such a good scoring threat, I think could be the difference in this one. Um, I don't know. A coin flip game, I'll go with BYU just because I like their talent a little bit more right now. Although by the end of the year, Dan Hurley might have these guys really pushing things. On Sunday, the last game we're going to pick, Greg, we have Houston and Auburn. Who are you going with?
We go with Houston. Auburn gave us a scare last week. I mean, if this wasn't ranked on ranked, we probably wouldn't be even talking about it. There's not really any reason, unless you're about to shock me, to pick Auburn in this one. But I'm going to take Houston.
I mean, no, I'm out on Auburn this year. They have some good players, but I'll need to see it first with Auburn. Like I'm not saying like miss the tournament bad yet. I think it could get to that point, but I think they're just like in terms of they're more of a bubble team than fighting for a top 4 seed team in my mind. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but that's where I'm at with them. Houston, and they honestly, Houston hasn't played the best yet for them either. Like 75-57 win over Lehigh. Like it's okay, but like they're trying to get a lot of freshmen in, so maybe Auburn has a chance there. It is in Birmingham. It's a neutral site game. I should have mentioned that earlier, but there's some silver lining for you if you're an Auburn fan. But I do think Houston wins. I think they win it pretty convincingly. All right, Greg, those are the picks for the week. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
No, there's a couple of other games worth watching. Like tonight, Iowa State and Mississippi State play. Wake Forest and Michigan play later in the week. Look at your TV listings. If you have YouTube TV, figure out another way to be able to watch ESPN stuff. I hope by next week when we're recording, that stuff's all figured out. Joe, there is one more thing that I feel like now I'm hearing all over. We did not touch on is this foreign kid from Greece that on Virginia Tech that had 33 in his debut. There's another one that that kind of guy could be a difference between a team, making the tournament and not making the tournament. I had zero thoughts about Virginia Tech basketball at any point in time other than, looking at the season preview. I'm not going to try and pronounce the guy's name. I don't know if you want to try it, but that guy fits two bills. He's technically a freshman and he's a foreign player. So I guess that means he's going to be really good, right?
Yes. Diocles Avdalas is his name. Probably
What
butchered
he
that,
said.
but that's as close as you can get. Yeah, 6'9", can handle the ball well, averaging 20 and a half points and seven and a half assists this year. Was not on the radar for me. He was one of the guys rated higher than Caleb Wilson on that top 10 freshmen in the ACC. So definitely it's like 1-to-1. Like I think it's, I think it was, I forget who was put the list together for his field of 68, but for me, he's on the watch list. I still want to see more, and I think Virginia Tech's on the watch list as well, just to kind of get more information. But very good start to his college career. Greg, you're right about other games going on this week. We have Florida State and Florida, and then Miami and Florida later in this week. That'll be fun to watch to see how Florida rebounds from last week losing to Arizona, and see how some new coaches do in those other ACC schools, Florida State and Miami. So that's fun to watch. And then also my turn to remind everyone to like and subscribe to the Gamehouse YouTube channel and also to the TGH College Hardwood podcast. You can find our video on the TGH YouTube channel. You can find the podcast by searching TGH College Hardwood podcast, and on pretty much any service you can want to watch a podcast or listen to a podcast on. Yeah, for now, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.